But if anybody would like to go watch this and support JoCat, please do. JoCat's amazing. He's a wonderful creator. So please, go give it a watch yourself. Also got thumbs it up.
I want to tell you a story about my first trip to Japan.
Yeah, I'm so glad too. He did for a while. He had a lot of support to come back though, so I think during the time that he wasn't doing stuff was this trip actually.
So Echo and I always wanted to go. Her as someone who potentially wants to live there one day, and me as someone who always wanted to see what the culture was about. Though I had flown internationally before, this would be my first time in almost a decade since the last time I did. Combined with the fact that I am growing a developing hatred towards flying, I was prepared for 15 hours of dread. And it was
Closed
dreadful.
captions are not matching what he's actually saying, but it works.
I'm someone who cannot sleep unless they're laying down, so the entire flight was just me adjusting and
Seeing
readjusting my
animators and
position
stuff
to
in this
try
are really
and
cute
get
too.
just a little bit of shut-eye.
Because Joe
with
used
zero luck.
people for background. Me too. I'm really
Thankfully,
glad.
when it was finally over, I had a lot of fun to look forward to. Right after we get through customs, and grab our train cards, and Wi-Fi box, and cash, and drag our very heavy bags through the city to our Airbnb. The flight arrived at about 4 p.m., but we didn't make it to the place we were staying at until nearly 9. Most of the time we had spent waiting in line for our train cards, since there was only one terminal for basically everyone at the airport. This was because there was a chip shortage for the Suica cards that let you use the public transit in Tokyo, and the only ones available were the welcome Suica cards, which only lasted 28 days. But that was fine because that's about how long we were going to stay. After all that was done, we finally made it to our home base for the month, an apartment in Sumida City. And also by a very convenient Lawson, of which we would visit near daily whenever we would need a quick meal. Thank you, Lawson employees. You are our heroes. So, here we were, finally in Japan. We chose Tokyo because it's the most foreigner-friendly, a nice baby's first Japan location. Especially considering Echo is still learning the language, and I know little to none of that language. I can speak Thai though. แต่ว่าผมลืมภาษาไทยไปตั้งเยอะ แล้วก็พูด
I believe he
เหมือน
posted
ฝรั่ง
this clip whenever he was working on it.
There's a lot of English translations around for signage, but most impressively, the public transit was so easy to understand that as far as getting around goes, we had basically no problems finding our way around the city. So, what did we do on our first day in this new foreign country to us, ripe with centuries of culture and dozens of fun new things to do? Against the recommendations of a good friend of ours, and basically everyone else who's ever been to Japan, we went to Kura Sushi. I'm sorry.
Mad Goomba.
In our defense, we don't have a Kura Sushi anywhere where we live in the US without having to fly to another state. And if we're gonna take in what Japan has to offer, why not their equivalent of a McDonald's, right? On top of that, it also had the benefit of allowing people to order food without having to talk to anybody, which is great for nervous foreigners with the language barrier who don't want to accidentally inconvenience anybody. Echo tried a lot of stuff. I mostly had the meat. Oh, and also, every 5 plates, you get a chance to win a Gachapon, of which I won on my first try. The rest of the day, we planned on getting a few things from Daiso and Book-Off Plus in a sort of shopping district in Ueno. Or maybe Ueno is the shopping district? I don't know. But it was a really nice place. Just about every few feet, there was a store that caught our eye. We even found a nice clothing store where I got this cute, cozy sweater that looks like low-level RPG gear. And it helped keep me warm the entire trip. Speaking of which, I wish I could show you the absolute amazing fashion that was on display in some of these clothing stores. If it weren't for our budget, I would have personally gotten about a dozen outfits. Fun situation that happened while we were out. I was feeling thirsty at one point, so we stopped by a convenience store to grab something to drink. I found a can of lemon water that looked pretty refreshing.
That is not lemon water.
Found a nice spot to sit and refresh ourselves, and went about our way in more of the shopping district.
Yeah, I would love to visit
the
countryside one day in Japan.
Echo had a look over my drink, and it turns out it was alcoholic, and I hadn't even noticed. Now, being a little tipsy in public was not a big deal, but what was of note is that I finally found an alcoholic drink that I liked. Some of you may remember I did a few drunk gaming streams in the past with my friends, and know that I usually can't even stomach a few sips, let alone the chugs I was taking for the stream. So this was a big deal to me. It may come as no surprise to people who remember those streams as well that I am a huge lightweight. So even this little drink with 5% alcohol content was giving me red flush
I love the little just
and
like
a warm, cozy feeling.
eating animations. It's so cute. Just,
The next day, we did a bit more aimless exploring, just to get a bit more of our bearings around the immediate area, and somehow accidentally found ourselves at the Tokyo
Pointing.
Sky Tree, of all places.
It is really well animated. JoCat did a really good job. I don't know if he had other people.
It's not like it was all that far from our Airbnb,
Okay, yeah,
but
he
it
did
was
have
still
help.
a pleasant surprise to land there without really meaning to. And inside was a lot of cool stores and food stands, but most importantly,
Hey,
and
it's
most
porcelain doll.
dangerously, Gachapon machines.
Gachapon! He had art and background help from Echo, and then additional art
They're literally
from Tactical
all over
Tactitional
Tokyo.
Cave,
In fact,
I think.
on
There
our
we go,
way
yeah.
through some of the subway stations, we came
Welcome
across
back.
dozens. But here they were, stacks upon
More
stacks
gacha.
of them, much
See,
to
I
the
get it.
dismay of our wallets.
I get
Luckily,
it.
we were able to hold some sense of impulse control, but from that point on, Echo devised a plan and began saving our 100 yen coins in a very special little pouch.
Aww. Love it. The gecko
Earlier
is so
that day,
cute.
Echo also secretly got me a bunch of probably the biggest grapes I have ever seen in my life. See, we had decided to come to
Gotcha
Japan in
pouch, yep.
October because that would be the time when it'd be both grape season and persimmon season. Echo was interested in the latter fruits, whereas I don't like grapes, but I do love grape flavors. It's definitely one of my favorite fruit flavors. And in America, there's this one
Captain
drink that I
America
really like
pointing.
to get
I
whenever we
understood
go
that
to our
meme.
local Asian market. Ramune. And they had a
See,
grape
I like the melon
flavor
flavor
that
of this
I
one.
love. I also love this candy that could be found in the same store called Haichu. And so, for a long time I wondered, a lot of Japanese grape flavored things sort of taste similar. Do grapes just taste different in Japan? So, this was my chance to finally see if I might like Japanese grapes more than American
No.
grapes.
I don't think they do.
I believe these are Concord grapes. Is that what they're called? It's a different type of grape from the one that we have in America. Better than American grapes, or about the same, neutral? Still not a fruit guy?
I don't blame you, Joe.
I will have.
I like grapes though,
I'm excited.
but I don't like red grapes.
Alas,
I'm nom nom
I
nom
guess I
nom
just
nom
don't
nom.
like
I love
grapes.
the little Echo eating animation. It's so cute.
the next couple of days we decided to rest up and do some work in our apartment because yay, being a YouTuber means you are never truly free. But that evening we did go to what I personally consider to be one of my favorite places to go in that entire trip.
Oh,
a local
seeing all the
yakitori izakaya,
people
a
in
bar
here, it's
that
so
serves
cute.
grilled meat on little bamboo skewers. The food was great. The drinks were great. I even found another alcoholic beverage that I enjoyed, so that was another win. But the
Yay!
thing I liked most about it was the manager, who was
Yeah.
incredibly patient
I got up
and
to this point
accommodating
before
to us
having to start
from
stream
the
today.
instant we stepped in. It was probably pretty obvious to him that we were tourists, so even though we could not speak a word of each other's language, he was nice enough to gesture to us each part of the bar for us to understand the regular procedure. Use the hand sanitizer, pick a seat that leaves room for others, order a drink before you order food. But coolest of all, he would point to each item on the
think this
menu,
is so sweet.
which did not have an English translation, and taught us how to read and pronounce each item, including pointing to the display as to which one each item corresponded to. I don't know if this was just because we were foreigners or if it was just standard procedure there, but he would regularly check up on us to make sure everything was good on our end. And if that wasn't cool enough, at one point, Echo had decided to translate the menu for my convenience because unga bunga stupid American brain not knowing another language. But one day, we had come home from that restaurant, and I had lost the menu, which really sucked. Echo put a lot of work into that thing.
Hang on,
But
I
then,
wanna see.
when we returned to the yakitori place,
Can I-
convenience, because
Yeah, so she even put out the English too, so Joe would know what the English was. That was so nice of her too.
unga bunga stupid American brain not knowing another language. But one day, we had come home from that restaurant, and I had lost the menu, which really sucked. Echo put a lot of work into that thing. But then, when we returned to the yakitori place, it turns out the manager had found and kept Echo's translated menu, and held onto it for us. This man single-handedly watered my crops, cleared my skin, and cured my depression. I love him.
Unga Bunga
Another work
American
day,
brain,
so
yeah.
nothing interesting going
I mean,
on,
I
but
agree with
what
Joe.
was important was that today was Burnable Trash Day. If you're not familiar, Japan has a very specific method of how they do waste disposal, and it's your responsibility to categorize your trash. Sure, they have sanitation workers pick up the garbage like normal, but it's your job to make sure the right trash is stored correctly and in the right place. In America, we
And
only
since
really
they were
have
staying there
trash
for
and
a
recyclables.
month, they needed to do
That
this
is,
themselves,
unless your
sadly.
local government decides to
So
take
I
the
know it's-
recycling bin
it
away
sounds
and
like it
make
would
you
be
drive all the
stressful.
way to the recycling center. But anyway, you usually just kind of throw everything in one place. Not so in Japan. To keep things simple, there are really two main umbrellas that all trash falls under in Japan. Burnables and recyclables. Easy enough, just like the States. But with the recyclables, you have to separate them and store them a certain way for trash pickup, like bundling papers together, putting metal cans all in the same bag, cleaning out any reusable cups so there aren't any
Pet
food
bottles.
that's left in it, and
That's
the
the
like.
thing I remember.
It was a
You gotta
very
separate the
different
caps
way of
of the
doing
pet
things than Echo
bottles
and I
from
were
the
used
bottle.
to, so it took a bit of time to figure out, but once we did,
Love that he
it
always
was kind of
is
nice knowing
thinking
that our
of
trash was going to the
Chikoa.
right places.
Or not Chikoa, it's not Chikoa. What is the otter's name? I forget now. Oh, goblins. I like
Today
little
was our
goblins.
first day of special plans. Disney Sea. It was one of the first available things we could book, and thankfully it wasn't all that busy that day, so we never really had to worry about crowds or too long a lines. I think it was a bit more of a park than a theme park, as me and Echo spent a lot of time just sort of walking around since the rides were fairly far apart. We only really got to ride like 4 rides before deciding to call it a day, which we were overall fine with, but me personally, I just wish there were more rides for the size of the park, or if the park was a little smaller so there wasn't so much walking needed between them. We also
Goblin.
grabbed a few
It's
souvenirs
goblin
for some
back there
friends.
too.
Thank you for bringing
There's a
me
rack.
France.
Yeah, we'll have to check for bed bugs later.
Okay.
Not a lot happened this day. I mostly stayed in and near our Airbnb to sort of rest up after going to the Disney
More
park
goblin.
yesterday, while Echo had a girl day where she went to Tobu and got some cakes. She actually did quite a few girl days on our trip, and if you want to hear about those, feel free to subscribe to her channel where she'll tell you all about it. For me though, it was nice to just have a rest day
There,
where I could
right
wander
there.
and take in the local area where
was
we were
mentioning
staying,
that I saw,
especially with how convenient the public
Hammerhead there.
transportation is. Okay, speaking of, can I just talk about the public transportation really quick? Because I think that was probably
Okay, I
my
think this is the
single
part I got
most
up to,
favorite
was the
thing
public
about
transportation.
staying in Japan, or at least in Tokyo. The fact that there are trains and buses everywhere that help you get where you need to go, and how it makes just about everything within walking distance. Sure, there are roads and stuff in the larger parts of the city where having a car would definitely be beneficial, but me and Echo never had to step foot in a single car the whole trip, save for once. In America, there are very few places where we have
Foreshadowing.
things like trains and bus stops. They exist, but really you'll only ever find them in certain very dense cities that have been around since the colonial era. And even then, a lot of them get replaced by roads and highways. To get anywhere in America, you need a car, full stop. And yeah, there have been attempts to add in more public transportation, but for some reason, it never really took off, and it's a real mystery why. No one truly knows. It's a big mystery, really. But in Japan, or at least in Tokyo,
Oh, Joe.
you can get just about anywhere on foot. There are train stations at just about every other block, and navigating them is so simple and easy to understand that children can use it, and do. Whenever we would go somewhere, me and Echo would occasionally
That
see a
cat-
kid
that cat
no
is
older
so
than
awesome.
10 get on the train all by themselves with no parents or escort or anything. They just know how to use the trains and buses. It was
That is so
especially
cool.
helpful that all the signage was super foreigner-friendly, since Tokyo had just recently renovated the city to be foreigner-friendly. For the 2020 Olympics, it was supposed to host before the... Yeah. What made the whole thing even more fun was that at about every station, there are desks with stamps for that station, and each stamp had a different design. And so it was my and Echo's mission to get a stamp at any new station we stopped at whenever possible. We even
Heck
got
yeah.
these cute little sketchbooks from one of the stores at the Skytree that we would put them in. Echo's is a lot fancier than
Oh,
mine because
Echo's
she would
did
draw
such a
cute
good
little
job,
doodles to
Echo.
represent what nearby attractions
Aw,
and things
that's so
were at that
cute.
station.
I love that.
And what we did there. But all this to say,
Aw, that's
if
so
there was
cute.
one thing I could bring home from Japan to the US, it would be the train system. Please, please, God, please, I just want trains, please, please, no! The next 4 days, we didn't really do anything special. Spent it mostly just living in Japan. We'd do work during the day,
Yeah,
head out
I
to grab
remember
lunch at
that.
noon, maybe explore a bit of the city, come back to do more work, go out for dinner, maybe get
Nom, nom, nom.
distracted by an arcade
Oh,
for an hour or 3.
It's Dodger
Check out some
and
convenies and grab
Jesse.
snacks, then come back and get ready for the next day. It was kind of nice to
That
just
was
wind
cute.
down and take it all in.
Oh, there's him
I
in
know
the
to a lot of
sweater.
folk that
That's
might
the
sound like
sweater.
we were wasting our vacation days, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Having to do something exciting and having a strict
were
schedule
enjoying
every
your
day
time.
during a
You
time
gotta
that you're
take
supposed to be
time
spent
off.
relaxing doesn't sound all that enjoyable to me. Now, not
Yeah.
everyone is able to spend a month on vacation, whether it be because they can't afford it or their schedule doesn't allow it. So I hope
Yeah.
this doesn't come across like I'm saying the way we did it is the best way for everyone.
No, but it
we
was good
did
for
plan
you.
for a whole month specifically because we like
Yeah.
having days where nothing's scheduled and we can just sort of
Hmm.
go about doing whatever we want without having to worry that we weren't maximizing our vacation time. Plus,
That
we
makes
did
sense.
sort of have something special to do most of the days.
Yeah.
As Echo scheduled while I sat sucking my thumb in the corner because planning things is scary and I'm just a little guy. It's my first day. So we did at least have variety, not just constantly on mandatory fun mode. If anyone has ever had helicopter parents, you know what I mean by mandatory fun. This day we
Luckily,
planned
I
to
did
go to the
not.
Book Off Super Bazaar because I needed a second monitor to facilitate my work. See, I normally would bring my own monitor, but I've had nasty luck with every
Aw.
single time I fly with one. Doesn't matter how padded or protected it is, the airline will always manage to break or bend my stuff.
That makes
so this
sense.
time, I said, no more packing monitors. I'll just get one in Japan. And so we did. Book Off is basically a massive
I mean,
secondhand
you
store.
can just
Just
come
about
back and sell it
everything
to
you
them
could
later,
think of
too.
inside. From clothes to bags to musical instruments to sporting equipment, it's got everything. We even found a few Pokemon plushes to bring home for some friends. What
Score
wasn't
bunny.
so great about it was that while we were browsing, we had a basket with a few items already, and at some point we accidentally crossed a section where that item was supposed to be stored in. And so it began beeping its alarm non-stop until an employee found us asking if we were going to buy it. In which case, we confirmed, apologized profusely, and immediately checked out so as to never bother them ever again.
Aww. No. So you didn't get the monitor? Donuts. Are they Mr. Donut donuts?
Oh, that's like a beignet.
Today was a special day. We were
What
going to the
day?
Pokémon Center
Pokémon!
because I had planned on grabbing a bunch of plushies to give to friends back home since there's
Aw.
so many Pokemon
Yeah.
and they're not always so easily available to buy
It's
if you're in
true.
the US. And in the cases where they are... Anyway, it was really
Yep.
cool to see all the Pokemon merchandising. They had keychains and stickers,
There's Stacy,
jewelry,
oh my
and
goodness.
dozens of other things I hadn't realized were even in the realm of possibility
Oh.
of what Pokemon could make into a
Oh.
branded product. What I really appreciated as someone who plays the games, though,
Missing
was that
no
the front of the store
earrings?
had
That's
a
fucking
nice
hilarious.
little mural with all the different generations of games being showcased. What
that's so
wasn't so
cool.
nice was they had Pikachu singing the Pokemon Center theme on repeat the entire time.
Pikachu! Pikachu!
And my heart goes out to all the employees who have to
Joe even put me in the Pokemon Center!
listen to it for 8+ hours a day, every day, all the time. At one point, it started to really get to us, and Echo started punching me in rhythm to the Pikachu cries. I don't get it. Pokemon has a massive library of music. Please, just let the employees listen to something else. Free them from this yellow electric rat prison.
I don't know why this is making me cry. Maybe it's because it's also in the Pokemon store.
The next few days were what I was personally looking forward to the most from this trip because they were lined with visits to a bunch of themed cafes. 2 of them being themed after my favorite video games, you may know of them. Today though, it was the Final Fantasy XIV Eorzea Cafe.
I don't know if Joe
in
knows that I like
Akihabara.
Pokemon so much, but the fact that he put me in the Pokemon store. The Christmas songs will forever echo in workers'
Funny
minds.
enough,
Oh my
the very
goodness,
same
when I worked
building
at a
also
movie
had
theater,
a
that's how it
Dragon Quest
was.
Cafe and one more themed cafe that we were going
We
to
had
tomorrow. But what really made this
non-Christmas
special
songs,
was that we had the collab
Christmas
cafe
time of the
queen
year,
herself,
but yeah.
Emi Richu, with us too.
Yes, that was you. Yeah, it was me. I know Joe asked
She
for
had already
people's
been to this
character
cafe
references,
before, but being a 14
and so I
player,
wondered
I
if
was
he
ready
would put
to
me in
drop
there. I
some
gave
sick
him both
lore
of mine,
onto
I
her
think.
ignorant mind.
Both
the cafe
cat and
itself
human,
was really
so.
cool. They had 14 music playing, which was always nice, and the walls were covered in various official art and props evoking the game. I ordered the Fired Dodo, which was basically a deep-fried chicken leg, and Hien's Big Blee acclaimed traditional cuisine of the Mole tribe. A bunch of sausages and some potato wedges in a cast iron skillet. It was alright. Echo and Emily each got a fat cat meat bun. Emily also ordered the Raktika Great Wood Ahilo, essentially a small shrimp ceviche.
Ceviche.
And all three of us shared a faux hollow chocolate toast, as well as the Guild Soaring cheese potatoes. Some cheese fries arranged like one of the attacks from the
that's
fight from Shadowbringers.
that's really cool though. Eat him, yeah.
The food was okay. My personal favorite were the fries, but the real stars of the show were the drinks. Each one themed after
Yeah,
a
that's
different
always how
character,
the
location, or
themed
job from
cafes
the
are,
game.
I think.
In really clever ways too. I got the Gunbreaker and Crystal Tower. Echo got the White Maid.
That being said, I'm really sad because whenever Mr. Husband and I finally got to round 1, they didn't have any of the Hololive drinks, and I really wanted to try one. But they did not have them. They were not displayed anywhere or anything, so I didn't get to try them.
In Crystal Tower, Emily got the Samurai and Dragoon, and each one was super cool and unique in how they were themed around their namesake. The Crystal Tower, for example, had this rock candy pillar
that's so
sticking out of the drink,
cool.
just like the tower itself. The Gunbreaker had popping candies that you could throw into the drink, like how Gunbreakers load cartridges into their gunblade. The White Mage had a cute little rose representing the
Blood lily you use to devastate all within your path.
Samurai was basic and boring, just like the job in the game. But my favorite was the Dragoon, where you had a blueberry soaking in cherry syrup to represent the accursed eye of Nidhogg. And I was basically nerding out about all of this at both Echo and Emily the whole time we were eating. Each drink also came with some mystery coasters as well, which had extremely nice promotional art from the various characters, expansions, patches, and events from the game. Now, Emily had already been to this cafe before, but it was real fun as a person who actually plays the game to be able to share how much thought and fan service went into all the dishes and drinks in order to elevate them beyond just being named after their subjects.
Every
if you want to
day.
see her review as a connoisseur of themed cafes, she actually did a video that included Eorzea Cafe, which you can find here in case you wanted to know her perspective as a general customer. As for me though, I am extremely biased due to being a big fan of the game, so I absolutely loved it. Even so, I think it's very clear that a lot of love, effort, and expertise went into making this not just as a good cafe on its own, but as a good piece of 14 fan service as well. And after we finished eating,
I think
Echo
that's
and
what a
Emily
lot of
fought
those are
in
for.
a great battle to the death on who would pay for the check. We ultimately came out on top due to our superior numbers. And then it was time for the gift shop, which
Suck
had
it, Emily.
all manner of great merchandise. There were jobstone magnets and posters and plushies and all sorts of stuff. I grabbed a bunch of jobstones for my friends and raid group. Shout out to the Glam
Nice.
Walkers. Thank you for being the coolest, most attractive bunch of players I could ever ask to raid with. But what really caught my eye were two beautiful lore books. The first and second edition of the Encyclopedia Eorzea. Volumes of information about the 14 world, including its history, cultures, down to minute details like each region's diet, and this stuff is like drugs to me, so I had to get them. It
It's
was
like me with
only
the Elden
when
Ring
I
books.
unwrapped and opened one later that day that I had
Oh, no.
realized the very stupid and, in hindsight, very obvious mistake.
Did you get the
that I had
Japanese
made.
one?
I had just bought a lore book of a Japanese game from a Japanese cafe in Japan. What language did I think it was going to be in? They sadly didn't do refunds, which was fine, but it meant I had these massive books that I could not read because I'm stupid. I eventually gave them to my good friend Shenpai when we got home, but until then, I had two heavy, physical hardcover copies.
Look at
of
those
shame
characters. Oh, the little
to
frog
lug
guy is so
halfway across
cute. And the
planet
snail
as a
girl, she's so
constant
cute too. I don't know
reminder
who
of
she
my
is. If
hubris.
she's a VTuber, I
After
want
the
to see
cafe,
her
though,
model.
we had a fun time exploring Akihabara, mostly playing at the arcades and spending a lot of change we had saved up over the past couple of weeks.
Chikawa! That is Chikawa. See, now I know.
So, this day was a bit hectic, but it was the nature of reserving spots for themed cafes. You'll know what I mean soon. First up on the agenda was the Monster Hunter Cafe, in the very exact same building as the Final Fantasy one. And Emily was happy to join us for this one too. And much as I love the Final Fantasy Cafe, and it was definitely impressive and kitted out, the Monster Hunter Cafe is the absolute pinnacle of what you can do with
I've
the
heard
idea.
this.
The venue
Like,
was
I've heard about
bigger,
this.
they had more seating
Yeah.
space.
People
there were
really like the
way
Monster
more
Hunter
and
Cafe.
larger decorations all over the place. Weapons and armor displayed everywhere. They even had a barbecue spit. Listen, I'm not saying the Final Fantasy Cafe wasn't a 5 out of 5. What I am saying is the Monster Hunter Cafe is a 6 out of 5. As for the food, Emily and I both ordered the Teostra Fire Mappo Chicken
Ooh,
Katsudon, served
that
with rice
looks
and
so
curry. And
good.
I got what I believe to be mandatory for every hunter.
Yeah.
The expertly cooked bone and meat. Yep.
Yes.
It's the well done steak.
So tasty.
Echo got the smoked salmon carpaccio, which was themed as an Arzuros' favorite food, and the Yomogi's special bunny dango. It's dango. For drinks, I ordered the Mega Potion, which was a citrusy drink representing the main potion with additional syrups you could mix in, possibly to stand in for the buffing potions like hot and cold drinks or armor skin from the game. I personally only really added in the blue syrup, which was blue syrup according to the menu, whatever that means. The other two were not my cup of tea. Emily got the Ray's Wing Ratha, which was a
that one
strawberry
looks
soda
pretty.
with cola popping candy and more of that mysterious blue syrup. While Echo had the Kagero Violet Tea, an iced tea with soda and violet syrup. I still had room for food, but withheld because we had plans to go to another cafe soon after this one. Why? I'll get to it. But Echo was ballsy enough to order a dessert because she has a sweet tooth that must be sated or else she'll explode. So she got Kirin Lightning Strike Parfait G, which is the G rank version of a much smaller, inferior parfait, I presume. Funny enough, it had the exact same kind of rock candy that was used in the Crystal Tower drink
That's so
from the
cool,
Eorzea
though.
Cafe. Thusly, I
Like, that
conclude
looks
that
so
the Crystal
good.
Tower is a massive Kirin horn, and that one day Eorzea will face a very rude awakening when they find the ginormous horse buried under Mordona. Overall, this cafe was amazing, and I actually have a hard time deciding if I like it more than the Eorzea Cafe. The presentation was definitely
I'm guessing
a
the little
step
plushies
up,
in
but
the box
it's not
are
like the
also
Eorzea
people's
Cafe
characters.
was lacking
Those
in
are
the
really
visual
cute, too.
department. If I had to pick a favorite, I think Eorzea just about beats it out on account that I think I preferred the food and drinks on their menu
Ooh,
just a bit
interesting.
more than the Monster Hunter one. The steak
Mapo
was
tofu would have,
middling,
like,
and the chicken
cemented that one
katsu,
for me.
although good, I feel I could get chicken katsu like it anywhere. So why was
That's
I
kind of
saving
the
my
issue.
appetite?
You either get
well,
decent food or not
because
decent food because
an
it's
hour
themed.
after our time at Monster Hunter was finished, we needed to get to the Kirby Cafe by the Sky Tree. Because
Bye,
that
Emily.
was literally the only time we were able to nab when reservations opened up. I remember staying up at 3 a.m. to help Echo book this thing and having 2 or 3 of our selections immediately getting snatched up by someone before we finally got one. We tried to book a 3-person seat so Emily could be included, but every single 3-person slot was booked immediately. And I mean immediately. Not to mention, you have to include your name in Japanese. So Echo and I were frantically trying to translate our names so that we could type it out in katakana. It was probably the most stress our relationship has ever been under. Thankfully, we did secure the spot, but the only time slot we could safely grab was unfortunately only 2 hours after the Monster Hunter Cafe, and we weren't able to include Emily, who is very understanding and didn't mind.
Well,
Thank you for your sacrifice.
So Emily does a lot of cafes, so I think she understands like not being able to get like a seat, so that does make sense. But Emily was still the goat helping them with all that too.
So that we could enjoy Kirby. So off we went, walking fast, go down to the subway. On the right
character's
side,
cute,
the
too.
trip had very few to no interruptions, and we actually managed to make
And a
it there
cat girl.
early. We got a seat inside not too long after, and this place, although small, was very cute. At the front, we got to take pictures with a giant plate while wielding a giant fork and spoon next to Chef Kirby and Waddle Dee. And decorating the center of the cafe was Wispy Woods, the most beat-up Kirby boss of all time. My favorite part of the cafe was the atmosphere. Some jazzy Kirby tracks were being played all the while we were there. our meals, Echo ordered the Waddle Dee lunchbox, which had a salmon and avocado rice bowl, while I had the Kirby lunchbox, which was another rice bowl, but with hamburger steaks and lots of veggies. I split it with Echo because I didn't quite like half the contents of the bowl, and I may not have been the only one because it's apparently a beef bowl now instead, which I would have much preferred. Thankfully, it wasn't the only thing I had to eat, as I ordered the Kirby burger that came with pasta and corn potash. The pasta and corn potash were good. The burger was not. The bun was and the meat tasted dry. Echo said the salmon and avocado bowl was the best restaurant food she had ever had. But now, we faced a new problem. Having eaten at 2 cafes in just a few hours, we were stuffed. But Echo was determined to not leave until she had a dessert. We almost got the Kirby cake, but it was
Why didn't
strawberry
you?
flavored, and I am not a fan, so Echo would have had to eat the whole thing herself, which was not
Can't
happening.
do that.
She got the
Yep.
Kirby's fluffy pancakes instead, which was still strawberry,
still
but
good.
far more manageable for one person. I helped a
Yeah.
bit with the sides though. Echo says it was okay, but no regrets. And then it was off to the gift shop, which had tons of
course.
adorable Kirby memorabilia. And most importantly,
Gotcha.
Kirby Gachapon.
Yeah.
Overall, it was a pretty good cafe, but I feel the food, at
Kirby.
least aside from a few standout dishes, could have been better. The change in menu items since we've been there probably indicates that they were thinking or being told the same thing. What else that was nice about the Kirby Cafe is that it was directly connected to the Skytree Mall, to the point the exit out of the gift shop leads directly into the mall itself. So we browsed the
nice.
mall a bit, made some impulse purchases, walked off 2 cafes worth of food, and overall had a nice time out. Back-to-back experiences aside, I'm still glad we got to do them both. At some point, while we were hanging out with Emily, there was a conversation along the lines of,
Oh, Echo, you like Sanrio? Are you planning to visit the Cinema Roll Cafe?
There's a cinema roll cafe?
Oh no.
so today we went to the Cinema Roll Cafe in the Shinjuku Mall. It was a walk-in, so no reservations needed. It was also
Nice.
fairly small, but not very packed, so
I know
we were
that
able to get
penguin.
seating fairly quickly. Sitting all around the cafe
who
were
that
some
penguin
cute
is.
little Cinema Roll plushes, which gave me anxiety, considered there was some very stain-prone food around. And the boy's basically a canvas waiting to be painted on. Regardless, I got the spaghetti with meat sauce that was apparently a collaboration at the time with Totonu Konu, who is apparently a character from the manga Don't Call It a Mystery. I have no idea what the manga is about. I am only learning about this now as I am writing this script. Echo, meanwhile, got the blue curry in the sky, which was a pretty basic rice and curry dish with a few bits of meat thrown in. For drinks, I got some sort of
don't
blue
like
drink,
blue
of which I
curry. That
cannot for
doesn't
the
seem
life
like
of
a
me
good
find what
idea.
it was called, but I remember it being okay. While Echo got this mustache drink, the Vienne coffee. We also both
that
got a
looks so
dessert
cute.
since we didn't really have anywhere else to be that day, so might as well. I got a stack of pancakes while Echo got a parfait. Basically,
Oh, the
all
parfait is so
food
cute,
at this
too.
cafe was really, really good.
Very
so
strong
props
cafe,
to the cooks.
yep.
There was an
Coffee.
adorable little corner merch store that had a load of roll-themed items, and I had to hold Echo back from grabbing just about everything off of the shelves.
It was a humble little cafe that was nice enough to stop for food. Now, after we were done, though, it was time for our special.
Of course, Iron Mouse
So I
is
mentioned
right there.
earlier that Echo was collecting the 100 yen coins each time we got change. It wasn't just to make some of our transactions a nice even amount, although we did do that sometimes, but more specifically, to save them all for one very important thing.
What is
Gotcha.
my purpose?
Gachapon.
Let's go!
Today was our designated Gachapon day, where we would be spending
That was
pretty
so
much
good.
all of our saved up change. About 20,000 yen's worth.
Holy shit.
Half of the day was dedicated to feeding Gachapon machines and collecting their precious little toy poops. We were ecologists on the hunt, and our quarry was a wilderness of plastic. We bounced around both the Shinjuku Mall and the arcades
there's
in
the purse.
Akihabara, basically until there were no more machines we were interested in. And we got loads of cute little things that will forever decorate our house and accessories.
Oh, they're so cute. Oh my goodness, a little Sprigatito.
Once we did have our fill of
I
choking hazards,
become
the
crab.
wallet abuse
Aw.
was not over. You see, we were at an arcade.
No, those two as well. So much gotcha, yeah. Oh no, it's arcade too. They got a bunch of stuff.
And although the Gachapon was no longer interesting us, the various prize
Hey,
games
Duper!
were still ripe. Not to
those faces.
brag, but I was a master of crane games. On more than one occasion, I managed to first try prizes that were giving Echo tons of trouble.
Aw.
What can I say? I have magic fingers. It was a good day.
Yeah, I
and it
really
makes
like
me
that
wish
he
we
did
had
that.
these kinds of arcades.
I know that's why
in
he
America.
asked.
I want this meat.
It's such a cute meat.
Meat.
No. Yes.
Yeah!
Yay!
Oh, it's so cute! Look, you can take the bone out.
Round meat.
Oh, that's suggestive.
Yes, I was gonna say that looks very sphincterous.
Oh no, did you get sick?
All throughout our trip, we often would stop by any restaurant we'd come by that looked interesting to get food.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, sometimes that can be playing Russian roulette with your stomach. And because of this, at some point, I had unknowingly eaten something bad, and I got food poisoning, which laid me out for nearly the whole week. I would spend the following 4 days in bed, doing nothing but sleeping and occasionally messing up the bathroom.
But not me. This is my video now. Ha ha!
Oh, Echo.
I went to Daiso and I got a bunch of meds to try and help him feel better because
I know
there
this
wasn't
too
much
as
I
well.
could do to heal him otherwise. So I decided to go out and have a girl day. That way he
Little
could just have the room
scorpion's
to
so cute.
himself. I went to an IKEA and I got a hamper. I also went to Don Quixote, which is this huge superstore where I got some really cool colored contacts. But then at one point my phone nearly died, so I had to hunt down a McDonald's specifically so I could charge it, because I know they have outlets and charging stations. Once I felt like my phone was charged enough that I could use Google Maps to get home, I made my way out to the train station, and then halfway there, I realized that I forgot my bag,
And there's girl
my
DM.
contacts, and everything that I just bought at the McDonald's. So I took off running back to the McDonald's, desperately hoping that no one stole all of my stuff. It was all exactly where I left it.
The board
Should I
girl is
explain
really
what the
cute.
Big Pooh is here?
No.
Okay. I also went out and I scouted the Big Pooh, also known as the Asahi Beer Hall, for some super secret plans I have later.
Scoot. So yeah, I was out of commission for 4 days. To the point we basically had to cancel any plans we had for that week.
Aww. That sucks.
Another
Like-
day for me to rest. And although it did suck that I basically had to give up a couple of days of this vacation, we even had to cancel going to a ramen festival we had planned. What really sucked on top of it all was the weight loss. I've never
Joe.
really shared this part of myself publicly because it's kind of an insecurity of mine, but I've always had a hard time staying at a healthy weight.
Oh, Joe.
I used to be underweight fairly often as a kid, and although I'm doing a lot better now, I'm still a decent few pounds short of where I'd like to be. It doesn't help that my main job involves sitting at a computer for hours, and my main hobby involves sitting in front of a television for hours. And I just picked up another hobby that involves me sitting at a craft desk for hours. I sit around a lot. But since our trip began, I had been eating 3 to 4 meals a day regularly, walking everywhere, going up and down stairs all the time, carrying
little
around
mouse
all
guy.
our prizes and souvenirs. I'm not saying it was a workout, but it definitely put me on a healthier
Jackie!
routine, and I actually started to gain some healthy weight, which is why it was extra sad that while I was resting up, I could only stomach eating like 2 crackers for a given day, because anything else would have been too much for me. And so I had lost a lot of the weight that I had gained, which was kind of sad.
Why not exercise at home?
Today
It's
I
not
was
as fun when
feeling
it's at
marginally
home.
better, but a bit under
Thank
the
you,
weather
Dad.
still. We finally got beef bowl, which I am still surprised it took that long to finally stop by a place, considering I would tug at Echo
saw
each time we passed by,
the
asking if we
background,
could
too.
go, please, please, please. And I'm not kidding. Tied with the yakitori place, beef bowl is probably my #1 favorite thing to eat ever. To the point we
Aw.
proceeded to go there the next 3 days in a row.
It's
I love it
roast
so
noodle.
much. We now make beef bowl at home in America.
I also
and
knew
although
the
it's not
character
nearly
too. I
as
can't remember what
good,
her name is.
I still love it. Beef bowl.
But she's a
my beloved.
muse of cosplay.
Since I was feeling almost back to 100%, we decided to celebrate. We would spend the day at the arcade. And can I just go on another happy tangent real quick and say I love Japanese arcades. Sure, we have a few back home in the U.S. and they're
There's
fine
Ross
and all,
and,
but something about the
Geary.
fact so many of the ones in Japan have prizes
Hey,
attached.
it's Prism.
I don't know. I want more of them. Echo too, maybe even more so. It's
It's
kind of
Prism
dangerous.
and
we
Party
spent so
Demoness.
much time and energy trying
In
to
the claw
get this
machine.
one bunny suit, Chika Fujiwara. We don't even watch or read Love is War. Echo just really wanted it and got so tantalizingly close. But we ultimately gave up when we had spent a collective 30 tries, which probably amounted to the same amount of money it would have cost just to buy the figure.
You
But
should
to
have
Echo,
seen my send.
it wasn't about the figure. It was never about the figure. It was about winning.
See me my
What
send.
I personally love about the arcades is they almost always had a taiko machine. And I love taiko. I love rhythm games, but especially taiko. Something about having physical sticks to bang the drums. Plus, whoever's in charge of licensing the music for the game did a fantastic job because they have banger after certified
Fuck yeah.
banger. They even got Klonoa tracks in there. That's how you know it's a good game.
One thing I
Place,
feel important to
Japan.
mention, I've been talking positively about my and Echo's experiences so far, because it was positive. But make no mistake, we have no delusions that Japan is some perfect paradise. Like any country, it has its own social, economic, and political issues. Its work culture, its rocky history with women and LGBT people, the state of its economy, and that these are problems that Japanese people are entirely aware of as well. I'm not bringing anything new to the table here. I personally don't feel informed or qualified enough to speak on them, as I'm just a foreigner. I am by no means trying to romanticize Japan. I'm also not trying to say that America is that much better either. We got our own problems, and some of this is the pot calling the kettle black. I lived the first 11 years of my life in an Asian country. I know firsthand what differences in culture a few thousand miles of land can be. We just wanted to enjoy that freshness of a different culture for a bit before returning to our normal
exactly.
lives. Not trying to say anything more than that. But I just wanted to mention that somewhere in here, in case people got the wrong idea that this video is Japan good, America bad.
That makes sense.
Today was a very special day for Echo because we were finally going to Sakaido, which is a massive art supply and stationery store, where I had to hunt her down several times because she kept escaping. To look at another random part of the store. And who could blame her? This place was full of so many tempting supplies to grab. Hell, I haven't touched anything traditional in years, and I still fell victim to the allure of shiny new art supplies. And so I grabbed some cute little
Both
stamps,
stores I actually wanna
sketchbooks, and
go
even
to,
had a few
so.
reference books for poses and outfit designs. This one's my favorite. The building itself was
I have
structured
that
into having several
one.
floors, each floor specifically containing
I have
a
that
certain
art
kind of art supply. Like, the bottom floor was for stamps, stickers, and sketchbooks. The next floor would be something like paper of various weights, thickness, and material. And the next floor would be all pens, pencils, scissors, and paper guillotines. It was an artist's wallet's nightmare. If you want to see specifically each and every item we got, and also a few more art stuff we came across just during our stay, Echo actually has a video going through each and every one of them. It was about this time as well that
I've
we
watched
were
that
thinking,
too.
despite coming here with plenty of space in one of our suitcases for all the stuff we wanted to take back home, with how heavy all our things were getting and how much space it was all taken up, we would likely need to buy another one. And eventually did. Thankfully, we only needed that one.
Help. Oh.
Today was real special, though not one that we planned. So Echo really wanted to go to the Asahi Beer Hall. Asahi being one of the largest drink producing companies in Japan. Think the Coca-Cola company or PepsiCo if they also produced alcoholic drinks.
Asahi and
They're
Kirin.
also responsible for my new favorite drink of all time now, Melon Cream Calpis Soda, which I would have to grab anytime I saw it in a vending machine.
We saw Babish rate that one, and he talked about really liking that one too. It's definitely one that I'd like to try.
No matter what. Seriously, if anyone knows how I can get this in the US, please tell me. Anyway, being such a massive company, they have a
looks so
couple of
good.
massive buildings in Sumida by the river, which are supposed to symbolize a tall glass of beer and what I assume to be a shot glass with foam whisking over the top of it, tapping together for a cheers. And yeah, it's supposed to look like foam. At
Yeah,
least
no.
that's the intention, but oh no!
That is not what it looks
Echo
like.
wanted to go to the Sky Room, a restaurant they had at the very tippy top of the beer glass, which has a gorgeous view of Tokyo. The food there was okay, nothing mind-blowing, but a pleasant enough meal. I had a sausage link and some pizza, while Echo got a couple of alcoholic drinks because she was very nervous for some reason. And it was there, while we were enjoying our food, looking out over the beautiful Tokyo skyline, that I was thinking out loud. This would have been a great place for me to propose. Sorry I don't have a ring, but we'll consider this our engagement trip if that's okay.
My heart is like a jar of pickles, kinda sour, kinda sweet, soaked in brine. No sandwich to pair with, lower than a side dish, no deep fry that I can call mine. My heart is like a jar of capers, a ball of salt that won't go by itself. No pasta to compliment, contemplating time spent sitting on the market shelf.
So yeah, Echo proposed to me right then and there. Look it, we took pictures. A place we would highly recommend if you're ever in Tokyo. Thank you, Asahi Sky Room.
That is so cute.
We wandered the city a bit more, and when we were hungry again, decided to stop by a ramen place at the recommendation of my best friend, buddy, pal, friendo, Shenpai. Hey, look at that, you're in the video 2 times in a row. It was called Ichiran, and it was located in Shibuya, the big city. It was quite a long line when we got there too, but when you go in, they assign you a seat along this lineup, where each person has their own little space to eat ramen. And in the center is where they took your order to prep food. They give you a little paper menu where you get to pick your noodle size, firmness, how much broth you want, the concentration of the broth, how many contents of food you want in it, the works. And I know I've said this a lot for a lot of the food here in Japan, but this is the best noodle dish I have ever eaten in my life. Thank you.
It's funny
so
because there's a
much,
lot of
Shen,
people that don't
for
like
recommending
Ichiran
this
as
place.
well.
Echo and I
But it's definitely
were
one I want to
lamenting
try.
on the verge of tears recalling this park to write for the video because the noodles were just
Hey!
that good.
That's a cute JoCat one.
Speaking of food, today Echo wanted to go to a very specific onigiri place called Onigiri Bongo in Toshima,
Yeah!
which
I've
was
heard
a
of
bit
that.
out of the ways from where we were staying, but Echo insisted we had to go. And she
She's been
wasn't the
eating
only one,
onigiris the
because
whole
when we got
episode,
there,
so.
there was a hefty line to
Yeah.
get in.
Like, we thought the ramen place was long. This was long.
This place had a reputation
Yep.
for being probably the best onigiri place around. And you could tell because we got there at around early evening time, and by the time we finally made it in, the sun was gone. And credit to them, the rice balls were absolutely delicious. Was it worth waiting several hours? Echo thinks so. She sure does. She says it was worth it. That's what Echo says. I'm not saying they weren't delicious. Probably
hey,
the
it's
best
Connor.
onigiri I have
Or not-
ever had.
Yeah, no, Connor, yeah.
Would I be willing to
Yeah.
wait the 2 to 3 hours again?
Yes.
We'll be ordering online next time. The final special planned event for our trip, the Ghibli Museum, which we weren't able to get any pictures for since they had a no camera policy
Yep.
once you were inside the building. We were able to take some of the outside, which still looked beautiful, what with all the greenery and overgrowth around the building. If you don't know Studio
Munch.
Ghibli, yes you do, shut up liar. Inside were various rooms and displays of the process the studio goes through to make their films, including entire albums of concept art, individual frames of animations, and even recreations of Hayao Miyazaki's office. The whole building was laid
Yes,
out
you
like
do,
a
shut up.
cozy building
Yeah.
from one of their films.
Exactly.
Very whimsical, very colorful, very dense with detail and clutter.
All
And
the people
plenty of
walking
activities for
around.
kids too, including a
I love
fluffy
it.
cat bus play place, which I was kind of envious. I kind of wish that I could
Aw.
go into, but I'm too big. It was for kids. So we
Aw.
just kind of watched them have fun. There was a section of the museum all about the illusion of animation itself. It It was a dark room with various rotating dioramas, old film machines, just a bunch of cool old tech that would have been used to make animations before the streamlining of digital media came along. And at the very back of the building, they even had a theater for attendees to watch a cute little short film about two children, a human and a rabbit, and their rivalry over a playground area. This is gonna sound cheesy, but that signature Ghibli vibe, the atmosphere, the feeling of whimsy and nostalgia and childhood wonder was just about everywhere in the building. And that includes the cafe outside as well. Yep, the Ghibli Museum has its own themed cafe, the Straw Hat Cafe, which was... I didn't really like the food. I think the only thing that looked good to me were the french fries, which were extremely unflavored and soft. But whatever, that wasn't really a place to get lunch anyway. Regardless though, the museum itself was a great experience, and we got to keep our tickets as a souvenir, which each one was a few frames of film from one of the movies. Look, I got a bunch of fish. I think it's from Ponyo. That's the only movie that exists with fish in it.
I'm pretty sure it's Ponyo.
This was our last full day in Japan, and we wanted to take care of a couple of last things. Firstly, we wanted to dispose of all of our plastic containers from the accumulated Gachapon that we had played. So we hauled a massive plastic bag full of them, went to the Skytree, and deposited them into one of these large recycling stations that would have given us special bonus Gachapon pulls if only our phones were Japanese and worked with the app that you needed. Alas, we were content with just plain old recycling for now. Secondly, we needed to pack our stuff, and thankfully with the extra bag we grabbed, we were able to fit just about everything without too much trouble. Third, there was a place I wanted to go to finish some business I had started. You see, in the Eorzea Cafe, they stamp this little card for each drink you order, and once you reach a certain amount, you get a reward. In my case, pin of one of the, at the time, 7 main city hubs. And so Echo and I ordered some drinks, chugging them down like we were grinding for an achievement, and managed to reach the reward and nab a pin, which I decided to go for the objectively best city hub, the Crystarium from Shadowbringers. And you can disagree, but you're wrong. And lastly, we wanted to stop by our favorite bar one last time.
Of course.
In Japan, there's a tradition called omiyage, basically giving your host or coworkers small, usually inexpensive souvenirs as mementos from a trip. We wanted to give the people of the yakitori place some items we had brought from the US. An American dollar, some ranch, and scented candles from Louisiana. We actually brought quite a few things for this tradition, mostly for the place we were staying at, but this yakitori restaurant left such an impact on us, we thought it necessary to give our thanks there as well.
That's really sweet.
It was time to go home, and as such, we had to do something we never had to do the entirety of our trip. We had to get in a car. Yeah, much as we probably could have walked our way to the airport using the metro, we didn't want to have to haul our luggage all the way up and down so many stairs again. So we grabbed an Uber and got an extremely polite and friendly driver who spoke English incredibly well, much as he would hesitate to ever admit himself. He even offered to take care of our heavy luggage and was surprised and seemed to panic a bit when we were so eager and ready to load it ourselves, not wanting to inconvenience him. As we were saying goodbye to Tokyo, he made the drive so pleasant and calming. It was nice to have a full conversation with a Japanese person as the final capstone thing we did on a trip, like a host asking us if the stay was satisfactory. I'll never forget how happy he was to hear that we had a good time staying in Tokyo. For the second time this trip, a middle-aged Japanese man single-handedly repaired my house, solved my finances, and rebooted my favorite franchise. I love him. He dropped us off at the airport and was kind enough to even load our luggage onto some trolleys, which was a surprise to us. Geez, these are so convenient. Why don't we ever use the airport trolleys back home? We checked our bags, hustled through security, waited in a building with a very yonic ceiling, and then we flew back. That was it. We said goodbye to Japan. It was a good trip. I look forward to going back someday soon.
That's right. Litnin Scorpani.
The trolley is $7.
That's why you don't use it. That's why you don't use it in the US. Because money, yep. Exactly. That was a good video. Clap, 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 clap. Good job, Joe. Yeah, good video. I liked it a lot. I was wondering if Joe was gonna do a video like this, because I follow Echo too, and I've watched her like Japan videos, so yeah. So many Patreon supporters. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Anime, the full complete context of the show. This goes off screen. Ravioli, ravioli, give me the cannelloni.
I like you.
I like you.
I'm excited.
Oh, that was such a sweet video.